Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. And welcome to another episode of Glass Half Full, a podcast and a safe platform where we talk with a variety of teachers, entrepreneurs, spiritualists, uplifters, givers, shakers, and serenaders. Everyone has a lesson to learn and a lesson to share. Let's use our life experiences to enrich someone's heart, mind, spirit, and soul. Through sharing our experiences, we can be a learning inspiration for one another. I'm your host, Chris Levens. Let's welcome today's guest. Today's guest is Stacey Marmolejo. Stacey Marmolejo, founder and CEO of Franchise Prep Academy. Stacey spent 30 years in corporate America and quit her job at the height of her career. She was a senior vice president, but wasn't fulfilled. She left corporate and purchased 3 locations of a startup franchise. 16 years later, in 2021, she sold the last of the 3 franchises and now helps others understand the franchise business model to determine if a franchise would be a good choice for them. Let's give a warm welcome to Stacey Marmolejo. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction.
My pleasure. Thank you for taking some time out to be a guest here on Glass Half Full. We're so happy to have you today.
I am so happy to be here. And just the name of the podcast is enough to get people in the right mindset for good life.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We love it. We love it. Yes. Can you tell everybody where you are in the world?
I split my time between the frigid north of Minnesota and the balmy, beautiful beaches of Florida.
Wow. What a contrast.
It is.
Oh, that's the best of both worlds. And are you splitting it evenly in the year or?
Not yet, but I am working on that. So ironically, most people are in the north when it's warm, in the south when it's cold in the north. But my mother is in a senior care facility with dementia. Okay. So I like to be here in November, December, and January to spend Thanksgiving, Christmas, and her birthday with her. So I will head south in February.
I love
Most
that.
people head south in November, but I head south in February.
Well,
and then
for
I
Mama, for Mama, you got to do it. You got to do it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then I fly up once a month and spend a weekend with her when I'm down there. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Retired GI father living with me. So it's like having the drill sergeant at home.
Oh, wow. Okay. There's a lot going on. Okay. Okay. Hold on. Let's jump on in and let's jump on in.
All right.
I like to ask all of my guests this first question. I believe that our lives are in spiritual design. Can you share your life layout or blueprint with everyone? How you grew up, where, your family lifestyle?
Absolutely. So I come from a 10-generation military family.
Wow. So
my grandfather, but my father was in the military. So I grew up all over the world. We moved every couple of years. And when my mom's originally from England, so we spent many of our summers in England visiting her family. And then when we came to the States, I went to high school and college here in the States, and I attended a small private Catholic college that had previously been a convent school. I was taught by the nuns. And ironically, now I'm divorced and I have one adult child.
Okay,
so
wow.
I'm very connected to the military lifestyle because of my father. My brother was also in for 20 years. His wife was in for 20 years. My mother's stepfather, that's how my mom got to the States, is her mother married an American at the end of World War II. They were in England. And her father was lost during World War II. And her mother married this American at the end of the war and brought my mother and her sister and her brother to the States.
Wow. Wow, that is a story to start. Is your son a military worker as well?
Actually, he is not. He went to a military prep academy in high school. He chose it to honor his grandfather. But he's a little too much of a free spirit. So, yeah, I was too much of a rebel. It was actually kind of a disappointment to my parents way back because they just expected I would join the military. And when I didn't, it was because I was too much of a rebel and I would have been kicked out for sure.
Hmm.
Conversely, my son is too much of a free spirit. So he's in his mid-30s. I think I can still tell his age now. I'm not sure when I have to stop, but he's in his mid-30s. And he spent time living in Europe, living in Australia, Minnesota, down in the house in Florida. He spent about 10 years in California.
Oh, sounds
And
exciting.
he just loves to travel and go wherever. So the military would have been good in that regard for moving all the time.
True.
But I'm not sure he would have done well with the orders either. I think we learned that in the high school.
Understandable. It's not for everyone. I also do come from a military family, and my siblings went, and everyone's, "Oh, are you going to be in?" I said, "Oh, no, it's not for me." I went ahead on to university.
I'll do service. Yes, I'll do service somehow, but I don't think you want me in your military.
Yeah, it's not everyone's cup of tea. Thank God we are talented in different ways and have different desires, because it wasn't the way that I wanted to go either. So I understand well about that. Nice. Well, let's get in and talk about franchise. I want to know, what does it mean to be a franchise owner?
I owned my franchises for 16 years, as you mentioned.
Which is a great accomplishment. Let me give you a little of this. That's something.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, come on. As a business owner myself, it's not easy. So that's a huge pat on the back. Nice job. Please continue.
Thank you. So I would say being a franchise owner is much like being a manager, a general manager, overseeing a division of a larger organization, because really the franchise has already figured everything out. They've got the model built. They've got the marketing dialed in. They've got the processes built. So to be a successful franchise, this sounds terrible. I'm going to say all you need to do, because doing this is a lot, but all you need to do is follow directions. Okay. And that's why it's such a good business model for military when they retire.
Because and this is the benefit.
Do in the military.
Nice.
Is follow standard operating procedures. And when you do, you're successful. It's really simple, and people overcomplicate it all the time.
So when you get the franchise, like you say, you're not compared to starting from scratch. Everything is already established. The way that they are selling the product, the way that it's going to format, the sign, all of that kind of stuff is already laid out.
Everything is already done for you. And so if you think about when you started your business, right? Mm-hmm. The startup period is the hardest period.
It's so true.
You don't really know what's going to work. You have an idea, and hopefully you have a business plan that you're following. But since it's never been done before when you're in an independent startup, you don't know what's going to work. When you buy a franchise, you're stepping into a world that's already figured all that out for you. So you get to skip that entire startup phase of a business. You know, you can say, yeah, but you're starting with no customers. Well, this is true. But you're also starting with an established brand. So think about, particularly in today's world, think about how people look for things, right? First thing you do is go to your computer and do a search. The things that show up at the top of the page in a search are brands that are known, trusted, respected, And so if, let's say that, because I owned a music school, right? I owned a school of rock. So if you typed in guitar lessons, School of Rock would show up at the top. Now, Matt's guitar studio was probably on page 2 or 3. and how long, if ever, would it take Matt to get to the top of page 1? He could never knock off School of Rock. Or like the next one, there came another music franchise called Bach to Rock, right?
Okay.
Little broader audience because they're doing classical as well as contemporary music. But now, because of all of the locations around the country, it doesn't matter if you're in a town with a School of Rock and a Bach to Rock. Matt's music lessons are never coming to page 1. And so if you buy a franchise, you're going to have that same experience. You know, if you buy a pet dog wash and somebody types in where to wash my dog, the franchise offerings where you can get it done at a franchise location are going to show up first. And it's not because Google likes franchises, but when you think about how search engines work, where they are scouring the web looking for recency, frequency, and relevant content. If you look again, School of Rock, 400 locations. So that means 400 pages on their website, more than, because every location has its page. And then the parent company has 5 or 6 pages. And somebody is putting fresh content on 400 pages every day. How can you compete with that as an independent?
So true. Wow, you can't. That's what it comes down to. You can't compete.
And that's what it comes down to, is being found.
Wow. And so when we're saying franchises, for people who are like, what are we talking about? We're talking about the 7-Elevens, Wawa's, McDonald's, Wendy's, all of these type of businesses, correct? As well as all the way on up.
Well, right. And that's kind of what everybody thinks of when they think of franchises, is either fast food, which they call quick serve restaurants in franchising, fast food, or like you said, 7-Elevens and Wawa's, right? Mm-hmm. But there are actually 4,000 franchise brands to choose from. And there's everything from picking up dog poop in the backyard.
Get out of here. What?
People love to laugh at that. I looked at so there's a document called a franchise disclosure document. Every franchisor in America has to have one. And it's a document of 26 items. Those 26 items are dictated by the Trade Commission. Mm-hmm. And then the details are relevant to the specific franchise. But one of the items in there, it's called an item 19, talks about how much money current franchisees are making in that business. Mm. And there's a dog poop pickup where they are averaging over $100,000 a year in profit.
What?
I'm not making this up.
Oh, I never even would have thought something like that existed. I mean, I don't have a dog, so number one, that just...
Right. But, yeah. And it's amazing to me that dog owners can't do that themselves. But anyway, So you've got everything from that to how about cleaning up crime scenes? There's a franchise that cleans up crime scenes.
Okay, you totally took me out there. Wow.
Right? So I mean, yes, there's the fast food, there's the Quick Trips of the world, there's music, child enrichment for music schools and karate and dance and anything a kid can do, right? STEM, computer programming. But then there's also the trades of plumbing and electricians. There's, if you want to own a metal shop where you sell metal to welders, there's one of those that's in franchise. I mean, if you can imagine it, it exists. Budget blinds, people who do the blinds for your windows, interior decorating. There are franchises for that. And the beautiful thing is, if you look at that and you're like, yeah, but I don't have any of those skills. I would, I think a plumbing business would be fabulous because I can never get a plumber to come when I need them, but I'm not a plumber. right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be a plumber. You can own a plumbing franchise and hire plumbers.
Wow.
It depends on whether you want to be an owner operator and work in the business, or if you simply want to own a business and you look for that industry. So when I work with my clients, I say there are 4 reasons that people want to own their own business. And it's generally a combination of the 4, but there's usually one driver. So it's money. I want to make more money, or I want to make as much money as I possibly can. Fulfillment, and that was the bucket I fell in, is like, yeah, I'm making plenty of money, but I don't feel like I'm doing anything meaningful in the world. So fulfillment. Freedom, for those who are tied to a desk 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and they get their 2 weeks vacation and they have to ask for it far in advance, and really all they want to do is be able to come and go as they please. And then flexibility. So, even if you have a job where you can come and go as you please, maybe you just want to have that flexibility to work from home more often than the corporation dictates. Or maybe you want to be a snowbirder and you want to work from Florida part-time. And, so there's just every model imaginable in every industry imaginable is available in the franchise model.
Oh my gosh. This is such information. I had no idea. No idea.
Nobody does. Yeah.
Wow. Do you know some of the trendy franchises that are trending today?
I love that question. And everyone asks it because everybody wants the trendy thing. And that is an excellent segue into how I do my coaching, because we don't start with what franchise do you want. That's the last thing we pick.
Okay.
The process is, let's talk about you. What are you good at? What do you like to do? How much money do you have to spend? Because you're going to have to invest, right?
That is important.
And then we also do risk assessments, because it's important to think about, if it's a startup franchise, you're going to need to be a bigger risk taker. If you're not a bigger risk taker, then you want to look at a more established brand. So we look at you, we look at what you like to do, what you're good at, how much money you have to spend, what kind of risk taker are you? And only after we do all of those assessments do we then start talking about, okay, what kind of franchise? Because with 4,000, you can weed out a lot just based on a budget, right? And so to segue into the money part of it, if you wanted a McDonald's, you'd be looking at like at least a $2 million investment, right? And you also have to be approved by the franchisor.
Oh, okay.
So right now, the most difficult franchise to qualify for is Chick-fil-A. Like, they have applications out the wazoo.
Wow.
So they're very picky about who.
Is there a reason why? What is it that they are? Do you know why they're so picky?
Culture is very important to them. So they also want to make sure not only do you have the money to do it, but you have the same mindset they have.
Okay.
And because it's so popular right now, they have their pick of the litter, so to speak.
Wow.
So oftentimes I will get a client who doesn't have enough money to buy what they think they want. So I like to position this in, you're not getting a job. You're making an investment. So if you can't afford the franchise you ultimately think you want, then let's look at a smaller one. It's like buying a starter house. Mm-hmm. You don't get to buy the mansion that you want as your first home unless you come from lots of money. So you start with a starter home, and you hold it for a little while, you make a few improvements to it, and then you sell it and you buy a bigger house. And then you make improvements, and then you sell it and you buy a bigger house. You can do the same thing with businesses. And franchises make it so much easier, because franchises achieve profitability in half the time of an independent startup.
Wow.
And on the back end, franchises sell at a 20% premium on average over the same type of business that's an independent business.
So when you're selling a franchise, let's say if you had a McDonald's, it has to be approved by the corporate place before it's sold, I guess. Whoever you're selling it to, they have to approve that. Otherwise,
Correct.
okay,
Yep.
so it can be a little bit of a rabbit hole depending on.
So but what they, for the most part, what they approve. So what you're looking for. So the person that you sell your franchise to has to meet the same qualifications you had to meet.
Okay.
Okay. And in 99.9% of the instances, the franchisor has the first right of refusal. So what that means is if you have your franchise and you decide to sell it, and on average, businesses generally sell for 2 to 3 times profit. So we'll use that analogy, right?
Okay.
So if you've got your business generating $100,000 in profit, you should be able to sell it for $200,000 to $300,000, right? So let's say somebody offers you $200,000 for it. Then you go to the franchisor and you say, I have a buyer and their offer in writing is $200,000. The franchisor can say, well, I'll pay you $200,000 for it. Or they can say, no, proceed. And if they qualify for money and whatever, then we'll talk to them and make sure they qualify, right?
Mm-hmm.
So finding the buyer takes longer than getting them approved, generally speaking.
Okay.
Because most franchise, so long as you know that they're going to qualify, and again, you know what the qualification factors are because you've been entrenched in that business. You know the types of people that do well in that industry. And I'm going to hop over to another benefit of franchising. Is like, if you think about it, and I'm going to use Matt again. Matt doesn't exist, by the way.
Matt gonna need a hug after the end of this podcast.
I was going to say, poor Matt. We're hating on Matt. But so if Matt Matt, let's just say it's Christmas and Matt's trying to have a Christmas offer out there and he's just not selling anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Matt cannot pick up the phone and ask Sarah how she's selling her music school down across the town. Because Sarah's going to be like, I'm not going to tell you my secrets, right?
True.
But when you're in a franchise environment, all of the franchisees help each other because you have your territories. So I could call a School of Rock across town. So I sold 2 of them before I finally sold my 3rd one. So I could call the guy that bought my first one that was 15 miles away and say, are you having any success with XYZ? I'm just not selling this. And he would say, that's sold out for us. Let me look at how you're promoting it. And we would have a conversation and I'd be like, oh, I didn't know about that. Or, oh, I missed that.
Oh, wow. That's
and
nice.
I would do it, right? So with 400 locations, I could call 400 people in 400 different towns saying, I'm struggling with this element. What are you doing? And they would tell me.
Wow. Nice. What a network.
In an independent, you don't have that benefit.
So true.
So not only do you have the support at the home office, but you have the support of all the people who opened franchises before you. Oh, and don't always think that because you're the old dog, you have the tricks. Sometimes the new dogs have better tricks. So, always being open to hearing how other people are getting success and being open to trying it.
Yes, I think your keyword is to being open,
Absolutely.
And when we are open, we can receive so much and be aware of falling into being a part of so much, just being open. I love that.
And I think being open is part of the mindset of a glass half full.
Yes. I agree. You have to. It's going
to bring us so many things. Just be open to receive them.
Yes, this is it. To being open to receive it. To being open to receive it. It's huge. You hit the nail on the head on
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, where can the service members get money for a franchise? Where should they
So
begin their search?
Yep. So you talk about service members. It's kind of the same pool as anyone else, civilians or military. The military do have a couple of other buckets they can tap into, and they're all aware of those because the military is very good about promoting that amongst its rank and file.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but finding money and funding a new business is, we actually work with our clients very closely on that, because for most people, they go to a bank to get a loan.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my personal experience. This is how I learned. And this is why I like to teach people ahead of time, is because a lot of the stuff that we talk about at Franchise Prep Academy is stuff that people don't tell you. This is the stuff you learn on your own. And I think it's because most people who are educating, particularly on franchising, are trying to sell you a franchise of some sort. Like, there are franchise consultants that have a book of franchises that they represent, and they want to sell you one of them. Wow. I work with the client, so I tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then you can decide if you want to deal with the ugly or not, Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the difference between what I do and what a franchise consultant does. But when we're looking for money, most people go to a bank. And when I bought my 3 schools, I emptied my 401k, I refinanced my house, and that's how I funded the opening of the first school. So when I went to open the second, and I was banking at a national bank.
Okay. US
Bank. I don't mean to slam them, but that's where I was. Okay.
Okay.
So I became profitable in 18 months. I was making money. I was using US Bank as my bank. And so when I was ready to open location number 2, I went to the banker, and I said, bank loan officer, and I said, I would like to borrow some money to open the second location. And you have all of my financial information because I bank here, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And he said, oh, no, this is not an expansion loan for an existing business. Because it's a different location, you still have to put 30% down. Oh. Well, I was making profit, but I wasn't making that kind of profit at that time. And so I was telling a friend, and I was bemoaning, it's like, I put all this money in the first one. And they're like, not even acknowledging that. And he said, oh, that's because you went to a national bank. You want to go to a local or a regional bank. Oh, and we don't have time to get into all of the details here, but suffice to say that national banks are much better for huge corporations. The loan officers are only there for a short period of time because they are also looking to enhance and move up in their career. So there's a lot of turnover. Okay. And they typically will only do the safest of loans at that level. And I was such a small fry that I couldn't even get an appointment with someone who could actually make a decision outside the box. Wow. So my friend said, you really need to go to a local or regional bank. And he introduced me to his banker, and it was a business to business bank. And I had never heard of such a thing. I thought banks were banks.
That's first time for me too.
Okay. So this bank did not even have a location that people went to. Like, it wasn't on a corner in a standalone building with a drive-through, just as you think of any bank, right?
Okay, my eyebrow just went up.
It was on the 7th floor. It was on the 7th floor of an office building. And all of their clients were business clients. And all of them they rarely went into the bank for anything, even if they had like cash deposits, they would put them in a cash depository, and we weren't a cash business, so thankfully I didn't have to deal with a lot of cash. But it was you only went in there when you needed to have a meeting or something. And over 60, so I did business with them. I told them what had happened in the startup of the first one in US Bank, and here's what I wanted to do, the second one, blah, blah, blah. And they helped me get an SBA loan. And what I learned from that experience was not only are there business banks that have nothing to do with consumers, so you probably don't even know they exist, but the SBA, first thing, SBA is Small Business Administration in the United States.
Okay.
SBA. So they have a division that loans money to startups. They are required by law to set aside a certain amount of loans, 100% for franchise purchases.
What?
So, So that's where most people will go. Now, here's how it works, because this is something that even people who know about the SBA loans usually don't understand, and I didn't understand it at the time either, was the SBA doesn't actually loan you money. The SBA guarantees to the bank that loans you money that if you default, they will pay the bank on your behalf.
Oh,
so
okay.
There are two types of banks that you go to for SBA loans. There's an SBA approved and an SBA preferred. So, and this is true whether it's franchise or non-franchise, but it's harder to get an SBA loan it's harder to get any loan for an independent business because you don't have any history owning, you don't have, the brand doesn't have any history of success like you have with a franchise. So you have the SBA preferred and the SBA approved. So you go in with your business plan, you sit down with a business banker at a local or regional bank that provides SBA loans, and you talk about your loan and what you want. They then look at it and they're like, yep, I think that would be approved. So they send it into the SBA, all of the documentation, and they wait for the SBA to come back and say yes or no. If you go to an SBA preferred lender, they have the authority to act on behalf of the SBA. So they don't have to send your paperwork in to get approval. They can approve it at the local level.
Oh, wow.
So that's going to be a faster turnaround on the money loan, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are your SBA loans. There's also, because banks have become over the years so tight with money, I mean, the joke is like they only lend money to people who already have money, right? So if for some reason you get turned down for a bank loan, that's not the end of the world. There are so many funding companies out there. Like right now, I have a database of 65 sources to go to for money. Now, some of them are more expensive. The money is more expensive than others, right? So again, we're going to do that risk analysis. Mm-hmm. Low risk people, we're going for the safer bet, the easier way to get the money, the whole shebang. The higher risk people, we can push the edges a little bit and look for different sources of money. So one last thought on money is, you see things online that say start a business with no money.
Yes.
Can I just say, you're not going to start a business with no money. You're just not. And the amount of money you put into an effort is going to be directly connected to how much money you make. So people who do affiliate marketing, are there some who make millions? Absolutely. Is that the norm? Not at all. If you want to do a side hustle, at some point, if your side hustle's growing, at some point you're going to have to make a choice, because there's only so many hours in the day.
So true.
Are you going to go all in on your side hustle? Or are you going to stagnate the growth of your side hustle and stay in your job? Because that's really, if you think about doing a side, isn't that why you do a side hustle, is you eventually want it to become your full-time job?
Mm-hmm.
But but then you're going to, if it's successful like you want it to be, then you're going to get to a tipping point where you're going to have to choose one or the other. But when you get to that tipping point, I'm going to tell you, you're going to be exhausted. Because essentially you'll be working 2 full-time jobs.
Wow.
So if you think about all in on a franchise, don't do it like I did it. Because what I also learned, and what you do see online, which is true, is use other people's money. And I never understood this concept when I was first wanting to own my own business. Entrepreneurs understand it, but when you're becoming an entrepreneur, these are things you don't even think about, right? Mm-hmm. So even though I cashed out my 401k and I refinanced my house, I should have owned, I'm going to use the $100,000 analogy again because it's just easy math, right? If I had to put in $100,000 to start the business, I should have put in $30,000 on that first business and borrowed $70,000. Because that's usually what 30% is generally what you have to put down of your own money. Okay. So if I had done that, even with US Bank, they likely would have loaned it to me because I was putting 30% down. And then for that second location, I would have already established a credit relationship with them, making it easier to get the second loan from them. Now, I'm glad it didn't work out that way because I actually stayed with the business bank for the entire time I owned the business.
Oh, wow.
And that banker almost de facto became a financial advisor to me.
Oh, wow.
Because we would have conversations once a month about how the business was going.
Wow. You want that input, definitely. Like
Absolutely. 100%. Yes. You know, he was funny because I was like a sponge. I'm like, tell me more, you know? And he would say that he enjoyed being with me because most clients just saw us having a monthly meeting with him as a burden, like somebody sticking their nose in their business. And I was like, well, yeah, because right now you've got more money invested in this business than I do, you know?
And that's why y'all having that monthly meeting.
Than I do.
Yeah, it's true.
Exactly. Well, you know more about money than I do, so I'm going to take advantage of this. It's like free hour advice.
Yes.
From someone who has access to millions upon millions of dollars. Why would I not listen to that?
So true.
So,
oh my gosh.
So with regards to money, use other people's money. Figure you're going to have to put about 30% down. Think about it like starting with a starter home as a starter business. And whatever you do, don't buy one like I did. So what I mean by that is my son was into music. I worked at a corporate job. He went to a summer camp where they played on the Friday afternoon in a real nightclub, although it was a Friday afternoon, in a real nightclub on a real stage with real sound gear and a real sound engineer. And he was 14 or 15 years old, and he stepped off that stage and he was grinning from ear to ear. And he knew at that moment he was going to be a professional musician.
Wow.
And he said to me, I am just bummed I have to wait another year to play on stage again. Because he was going to a little music, no, it wasn't a little, it's actually a big music school, but they had traditional recitals as opposed to rock concerts.
Okay. Very different. Very, very different.
Very different. He had been doing the, piano recital since he was 7, every 3 months since he was 7 years old.
Was he playing the piano? Oh, he's singing.
He started playing the piano when he was 7. And then he added the guitar when he was 13. And then he did this camp on the guitar. So I was like, well, there's got to be a place you can do this. So I looked around Minneapolis, St. Paul area. And at that time, there was no place that was offering that type of program. So what I used to do when I worked in corporate, in the summertime, I would set up week-long meetings somewhere, and I would take him with me, and I would put him in a summer camp. So went to LA for a week, stayed in Malibu, put him in a surf camp, right?
Nice.
Went to Texas, put him in a rock wall climbing camp. So I was like, okay, we haven't done a camp this summer. I'm going to find a place that has these music camps and we'll go for a week. So I went online and I looked and I found what was then called the Paul Green School of Rock in Philadelphia. And I called them and I said, I'm looking for a week-long camp for my son. And they said, oh, we don't have any more. It's August and this is our last week of camps. So I told them the story I told you, and they said, well, we're getting ready to sell franchises if you're interested.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I bought my franchise.
Oh, wow. What
Not
a love.
the right way to buy a franchise. It
But
turned
that
out
is
okay.
a mother's love. My gosh.
That is a mother's love.
Wow.
But that is because I bet I'm one of the few mothers in America who spent inordinate amounts of time with my teenage son, because he and his friends loved to hang out at the business. They had access to every piece of professional music gear there was.
Wow.
Right? So it was great. His teenage years were great for us.
Oh,
but but from a family perspective, the way I bought the business, 100% the wrong way to buy a business. And that's why I say, when you asked about what's trending, I said, oh, no, we're not going there yet. Because if somebody, I might have ended up in the same place. I don't know. But if somebody had said, well, let's look at your core competencies. By the way, I don't play a musical instrument.
Oh, wow. Okay. That was the question I was going to be leading up to. Okay.
No, I do not play a musical instrument.
Now that is something.
Over 16 years, every instrumental teacher I had wanted to teach me how. They're like, oh, you just haven't had a good teacher. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I do not have the capacity to do this. Anyway, wow. So I did not play music. Most people who buy a music school play an instrument. They have a love of music.
Yes, they sure do.
Honestly, that's the wrong reason to buy a music school, because you are not going to sit there and play music all day. You're not in the music business. You're in the child enrichment business. You need the same skills to run a music school as you do a karate school, as you do a dance school. Mm-hmm. You're in child enrichment. You are not in the music industry.
It's you. So thank you for saying that, because it's different.
It is. And so that's one of the reasons I don't like to start with what franchise might you be interested in, or what's a hot franchise, because it might not be good for you. You know, if you don't want to you think about, we started lessons at 5 years old. Have you ever heard a 5-year-old on the drums?
Oh, yes, I have. I sure have. My niece.
Would you like to listen to that for 8 hours a day?
No, absolutely not. No.
Then you don't want to be in the music school business. Have you ever had a mother complaining to you because her kid's not on stage as long as another kid? If you don't want to deal with helicopter moms, yes. Child enrichment is not for you.
So true. So true.
And so that's why I say it could have been really ugly for me. I got very lucky.
Wow. Yeah, just hear how it came out.
And most people do. That's how they buy a franchise, or kind of any business, is they go into a business, they see it, they say, ooh, I like this. I could see myself doing this every day. But what you see as a customer is not the same as what you do as a business owner.
All right, now speak on it. Yes. Yes.
Right? So that's why you don't buy a business based on an experience as a consumer. Not to say you can't consider it based on that, But let's back that truck up and let's look at core competencies. And do you want money, flexibility, freedom? Like, what's your driver? How much of a risk taker are you? What are your motivators? All those assessments we do up front, because then that's your touch point every time you look at a particular business. Does it tick my boxes? But if you haven't identified the boxes up front, you can fall in love with a lot of things that are not good for you. Good for somebody else, but not good for you.
So true. So true. Do you feel that you found your purpose?
I do. You know, I'm not sure my purpose has changed in my entire life, to be honest with you.
Tell us about it.
Like, when I was a kid, now mind you, I was a kid in the 1960s. Take that in, right? A lot. The world has changed a lot.
I was about to say, that's not too far off from where I am. So when you said that, I was like, yes. It's not that far back now. Come on.
But but we've come a long way.
Amen. Yes, we
Years-wise,
have. We have.
But in my day, most women were nurses, secretaries, or teachers. So I wanted to be a teacher. Nice. And I think if I look back at all the jobs I've done and everything I've really enjoyed, it has been a matter of helping other people achieve what they want by reducing or eliminating the fear that's holding them back.
Wow. I love
I'm going to say that again, and then I'm going to dig into it.
Yes, dig.
Yeah. My purpose is helping others achieve what they want by reducing or eliminating the fear that is holding them back.
Wow. It's powerful.
That's what teachers do. Because everything that we fear because we don't know it. So if you can educate somebody about something, if they know what the absolute worst could possibly be, then they can make a conscious decision to accept or reject it. So education is everything. So whether you're educating as a school teacher, you're right now educating. You educate people with every podcast you do. And hopefully somebody who's listening to this will see that we've taken a little bit of the fear of a franchise out. You know, some people think franchising is a multi-level marketing thing, and it is absolutely not. There is nothing about franchising that is like, oh, recruit people to come in and work under you. That's not how franchising works. So if we can eliminate fear for people that's standing in their way of moving one step further towards their goal, that's generally done through education. Wow. And not necessarily formal education.
My grandmother used to say, keep on living. I used to ask questions and she would say, I'm like, yes. Oh, really? They're doing? She like, keep on living. And it's true. As I got older, I understood like what she was talking about. Like, oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. As you live, you will continue to go on and these questions will be answered and you'll realize it's life.
Yeah. And you learn more every day. Going back to what we said earlier, if you're open to it.
Yes.
You know, people can be listening to this podcast going, oh, I don't believe that. Oh, that's not true. Oh, my friend so-and-so tried to buy a franchise and failed. You know, they're not being open and they're not going to learn that there are other possibilities for them. Because that's another thing that I have learned in life is when people tell you that something cannot be done, what they are really telling you is they wouldn't do it. It cannot be done in their world. Doesn't mean it can't be done in your world.
I love that.
People who tell you all the reasons not to do something, those are all the reasons they would not do it. And yet we tend to accept what people tell us as fact. People like to give advice coming from a position that they don't really know. Like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, I wanted to be an entrepreneur in college. And we started this conversation by saying my parents wanted me to join the military. So I knew being an entrepreneur was way too far out of my parents' comfort zone to approve of it. And at 22, I still needed my parents' approval for my decisions. Not because they said it, that's just what I thought, right? Mm-hmm. So I took the safe route and got a corporate job. But I never stopped wanting to be an entrepreneur. And at 45, when my son said that was something that he wanted to do for a living, then my whole purpose in life changed to figure out how to support him. And I ended up being an entrepreneur. And it was everything I thought it would be from the time I was 22 till I got it at 45. It was everything I thought it would be.
Wow.
And I cannot imagine ever working in a business again.
I believe you. I believe you.
But I guess that's the other thing is if your listeners are listening, you have a job, you say, I want to be an entrepreneur. You quit your job, you go, you try something. It's not what you thought it would be. There's nothing stopping you from closing it, selling it, whatever, and going back to being a corporate employee. And then when you go back, you're like, this is for me. I'm happier now because I thought I wanted this other thing. I tried it. I discovered I didn't. So now I'm happy in my job.
Nice. Yeah.
It's like these decisions, the only decision that cannot be turned back is crime and murder, right? As long as it's fine, because you can redeem the only thing that you cannot come back from is death. And I don't even know for a fact that you can't come back from death, to be honest. I just believe that you don't, but that doesn't mean it's true.
Right.
So keep on living.
Yes. I love it, Stacey. I love it. Stacey, I want to know 5 words that describe you or that you'd use to describe yourself.
I think the first one really would be genuine. And that followed by caring. I genuinely care about everyone in my life. Oh. I care. I will start checking in with you and watching your numbers and seeing it grow and hoping I played a little bit of a part. Maybe one person listening to this too said, I really enjoyed that and I'm going to sign up for this podcast, to subscribe to this podcast, right? I genuinely care. You have entered my life now, and I care that you are successful and you achieve your dreams.
I love that.
And I sincerely hope that you will always feel like you can pick up the phone and call me.
I love that. Yes.
We are now in each other's lives.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter what, 6 months, 6 years, I'd say 60 years, but I'm not going to be alive in 60 years. We're connected for life now.
I love that. Yes. Yes, we are.
And
yes,
I'm loyal. I'm almost loyal to a fault. Like I still talk to my very first boss out of college.
Wow.
I'm positive, which obviously glass half full, right? And then the last word I would use would be successful. I feel very successful in life. I'm not I'm not super rich. I'm very fulfilled.
I like that. So you're living a successful life.
I'm living a successful life. I have an amazing relationship with each of my parents, with my son, with my brother. That's my entire family at the moment, nuclear family. I have a good relationship with extended family, none of which live near me, but we still reach out. I have really good friends. I have every material thing I need. I'm not very materialistic, but I have every material thing I need. But I think people are what enrich our lives more than people and experiences. And as long as I can have experiences and meet new people, I feel very fulfilled and therefore very successful.
I love that. I love that. So great. So great. I like to ask all my guests this final question. Is your glass half empty or half full?
It is always at least half full.
Yes. We love that. We love that. Definitely. Do you have any final thoughts for our listeners?
I would say, don't be afraid. Follow your dreams. And if you'd like some help with it, please get in touch with me. I would love to help you pursue your dream of becoming an entrepreneur.
So wonderful. Thank you for that. Can you tell everyone how they can reach you?
Yes, I've got a website, which is my name, StaceyMarmolejo.com. StaceyMarmolejo.com. I'm also on Instagram, and that's Stacey Beck Marmolejo. And I'm on LinkedIn, Stacey Marmolejo. So pretty much if you look up my name, you will, there's many ways. DM me, email me, fill out the contact us form on my website. Happy to talk with you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Stacey, for taking some time out this morning to have a chat with us. We are really so happy to have had you here on Glass Half Full.
Thank you. It was absolutely my pleasure. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays.
Yes.
And go do something. Go do something you've never done before.
Yes, right? I love that. Have a new adventure.
Yes. Eliminate those fears, whatever they are.
Yes. Step by step. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And thank you to all our listeners listening in to another episode of Glass Half Full, a podcast and a safe platform for everyone to share their life experiences. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Levens. Please subscribe, follow, and rate this podcast on Apple Music and Spotify for more learning experiences. Until next time, know you are blessed. See ya.